Well, tell your disappointment to suck it. I'm doing a bottle episode.
Last year, when I wasn't laughing at the Fast and Furious franchise,
I said forget about it, cuz.
I watched Only Murders in the Building, a new mystery comedy on Hulu, as well as the second season of Ted Lasso, which you've probably heard of already. And they were pretty good, both of them proving to be decently big in their status as boys. And while each show had their own individual highlights, my two favorite episodes each had something very special in common, these being the boy from 6B from Only Murders and Beard After Hours from Ted Lasso, respectively. Both of these are known as bottle episodes, my personal favorite type of episode, but not quite my favorite kind of bottle. That distinction goes to Snapple. I mean, where else can you get hydrated and learn? You've probably heard the term bottle episode thrown around before. Basically, it's an episode of a usually story-driven show that only utilizes a small portion of the main cast, usually set in one or very few locations, that stresses character dynamics over direct story progression. Now you might be asking, hey, what's the difference between that and a filler episode, which I don't like? Well, a lot of anime-type shows have filler episodes where, like, Ash Ketchum and company will encounter a new Pokemon and maybe interact with it for a bit and then move on to the next adventure. No real story progression, but not a bottle episode since the whole cast is there and there isn't really any intense character development, unless you count Ash and Pikachu's revelation that ghosts are for sure real and death is inevitable. So filler episodes are usually just to kill some time and lengthen a season. Bottle episodes, on the other hand, pride themselves on highlighting specific characters and relationships. Probably the most famous bottle episode of all time is The Chinese Restaurant, from a little comedy, I believe it was called Stanford. It's a half hour of television in which Jerry, George, and Elaine all wait for a table in a Chinese restaurant. And that's it. They don't go anywhere else. They don't get visited by Kramer or anybody. They just wait for a table and complain, and then eventually they leave. Sound boring? Well, the executives at NBC sure thought so when they tried to prevent the episode from airing for being too uneventful. Yeah, it's a great call there, guys. What they didn't expect was The Chinese Restaurant becoming a fan favorite and a certified Steinberg classic. Still, not every bottle episode is met with such open arms by the viewing public. I mentioned Beard After Hours earlier, which features incredible cinematography and lighting, an increased focus on the underrated gem that is Beard, and a hectic one-night time frame. But somehow, this is one of people's least favorite episodes of Ted Lasso. This reception is made extra confusing when my other example from earlier, the boy from 6B, was met with universal critical praise and was hailed as Only Murder's best episode. Is it because the story moved forward more directly in that episode? Probably. Regardless, The Boy from 6B is a bottle episode through and through. And while the whole cast does show up, the story is shown through the perspective of Theo, a deaf character, so the entire episode is shot with zero dialogue, except for the very end. If this format sounds familiar, it's probably because you're thinking of Buffy the Vampire Slayer's bottle episode Hush, in which Doug Jones floats around and takes people's voices away, letting the story be told primarily through visuals and music. And considering the whole point of a bottle episode is to limit a show's normal production, restricting methods of storytelling, i.e. dialogue, totally counts as a bottle episode. So why is it that one bottle episode can be hated and one can be revered? At the end of the day, they're both attempting the same thing and trading conventional storytelling for insightful character work or unique production. And sure, there might not be much going on in Beard After Hours in terms of direct story advancement, but I'll bet you remember it more than other episodes that season. Now comes the part of the video where I mention some of my favorite bottle episodes to show you not only that they're absolutely everywhere, and that most of them end up being the best episodes of their respective shows, but also because I just really like them and I want to gush about them. You guys remember that show, Game of Thrones? It was on a while ago. I don't recall it ever getting an ending, but regardless. It had all those intertwining stories every episode, and it took you all over Westeros to cover hundreds of characters. Well, there was that one time in The Watchers on the Wall where the whole episode took place at the wall, and you spent nearly an hour watching the inner struggles of Jon and Ygritte, alongside one of the best battles of the entire show without interruption. There's also that one episode of called Ronnie Lily, where Fuchs meets up with Bear as he takes on a couple of psychos without ever switching back to the other characters, allowing you to get much more familiar with the complicated relationship between Fuchs and Bill Hader. But not all bottle episodes have to take place in such story-driven shows like Game of Thrones and Stiff On. They're in much more episodic comedies as well. Usually these are to further explore the most interesting pre-existing dynamics, like Leslie and Ron in Parks and Rec's Leslie and Ron, or Jake and Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine's The Box, not to be confused confused with Kid Justin's favorite episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, The Box. Even cartoons can produce some quality Snapple type episodes, like SpongeBob SquarePants' masterpiece Idiot Box, not to be confused with Brooklyn Nine-Nine's The Box, and especially not to be confused with Kid Justin's favorite episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, The Box. Keep it straight, people. BoJack Horseman has two of probably the best bottle episodes ever made. Fish Out of Water and Free Churro, with one taking away a method of storytelling to make way for a purely visual and musical story, and one trapping BoJack in one location and letting him deal with his inner thoughts and struggles. Seriously, where is Will Arnett's Emmy? If Atlanta's third season has any episode as good as Woods, or especially Teddy Perkins, which take my two favorite characters and put them through the most tense episodes of the series, then Atlanta might end up being my new favorite show. And honestly, it doesn't even feel fair mentioning Twin Peaks among all these mortal shows, but Part 8 of The Return is just, oof. That's the best one, boys. I could go on mentioning more classic bottle episodes like The X-Files Ice or Community's Cooperative Calligraphy, but for my final example, let's talk about Vince Gilligan. More specifically, those two shows he made that one time. I'm gonna make a video about Better Call Saul pretty soon, so I won't say much here, but for now, I will say that Bagman and Chicanery are two of the best hours of television I have ever seen. Which brings me to the other very famous bottle episode that I haven't mentioned yet, Breaking Bad's The Fly. An episode which I, and a lot of people loved, but a lot of people hated. But like, why, though? Is it the fans' expectation for each episode to advance the story in a direct way instead of seemingly meandering for an hour? Probably. But in their own way, bottle episodes do advance the story, sometimes more meaningfully than a quote-unquote eventful episode can. Because when you limit yourself in terms of production, you as a creator free yourself to explore what really matters at the end of the day. The characters and how they react to each other and the world around them. Almost nothing happens in The Fly, but it proves to be the most informative single hour of Breaking Bad when it comes to Walt and Jesse and their relationship, both business and personal. I feel like bottle episodes, loved or hated, end up being the most interesting parts of shows for me, because it allows the audience to see these characters we all love in a more quiet space, giving us a vision into their deeper emotions and struggles. And as much as I love shows like Arcane, where every episode is essential to the plot, it's nice every once in a while to hit the brakes in a sense and get to know some of these characters so they feel more like, you know, people. And you know what they say about people? It takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. And I learned that from a Snapple cap. Hey, I just wanted to thank you guys for getting to the end of this video. If you stuck through and if you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like and leave a comment. Let me know what you think and what you want me to talk about next. Maybe tell me some of your favorite bottle episodes. That'd be cool to hear. Also, if you haven't yet, please hit the red subscribe button. It's red, don't hit the blue one. There is no blue subscribe button, but if there was, don't hit that. I don't think it does anything, so just hit the red one, and you will be able to keep in touch and watch more videos like this, and my podcast, That Was Mint, that I do with my friend Ethan, and we'll be filming more of that soon, so keep an eye out. If you haven't seen my Arcane video yet, go give that a watch, because I worked really hard on that, as did I work hard on this episode, so yeah, do all the things that I just said if you feel like it. I'm not going to force you to do anything. It's really up to you in the end, and that's kind of beautiful. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. I love you. Drive safe. Goodbye. Yeah, goodbye.